Howdy. Back on Culp's Hill. Some of you who have been with me since earlier on know that I've already covered Culp's Hill. But the main reason I stopped by right now was to show you this, which a lot of you probably have never seen. And what this is Culp's Hill with great visibility. You know, you can see about a half mile in front of you till the trees just kind of become a blur. But obviously this would have made things a lot easier, well, I guess for both sides. Quite obviously we are into the doldrum months, as I call them, but late fall getting into winter here. Pretty chilly. Not many folks out anymore. I gotta say, one thing that I'm thinking about as I'm walking through here with these old tennies is I can feel the rocks through the shoes because the soles, they're not thin, but they're worn, they're soft. And I'm just thinking, you know, I'm stepping all over all these rocks and roots and stuff, and it's, you know, not terribly comfortable. And then I'm thinking, Jesus, I mean, the Confederates and the Union, that their shoes were just about nothing at this point. Both sides. And they had to fight on this hill or small mountain, this rocky outcrop. I mean, look at this. But with no paths, of course. Pretty nuts. Let me see, that sign down there just goes over the basics, which I've already covered. Let's go up this way. There is one sign that we can look at that kind of leads into a point that I want to make while I'm here. But the main reason was just to show you guys all this visibility and how much, you know, it doesn't even look like the same hill as it does in the warmer months. Still very pretty out here, albeit sparse. But this was an incredible battle within the battle. Those of you who follow me routinely know that I'm a big fan of day one's fighting. And while this was day 2 and day 3, it is also, you know, kind of off the beaten path. Not the subject of the most discussions and popular books and stuff. But it's kind of cool, you know. I mean, you come during these months, guys, you basically got the park to yourself. So here's the sign. Well, you know, there are lots of signs, but since I've given the general overview, we'll just reintroduce you to Pops, who I stopped by and said hi to not long ago. We'll read the sign here. Fight for the summit. Sorry, I'm slightly out of breath. All these paintings. This was some intense fighting and some prolonged fighting. All right. Culp's Hill occupied by Union troops all 3 days of the battle. All 3 days of the battle. Critical right flank of the Union defensive line. Of course, as we know, it guarded their main supply line on Baltimore Road. Mid-morning on July 2nd, elements of the 12th Corps arrived to reinforce the hill, including the 1,400-man brigade of George S. Greene. That's Pops. And as Tim would say, had no part of any other century. He was born in 1801 and died in 1899. That night, his New Yorkers, along with reinforcements from the 1st and 11th Corps, successfully fought off 4,700 Confederates. 1,400 to 4,700. Now, clearly, there was an advantage, but still. Confederates and held the upper summit. Before sunrise, fighting resumed with 22,000 Union and Confederate soldiers battling for the hill. So of course they were both reinforced. As we know, the line was eventually broken briefly down there in Lower Culp's Hill. So this was no easy fight, even granted, like I said, with this position. One Union soldier recalled the whole hillside seemed enveloped in a blaze, and in my last videos I mentioned something about a fire. I don't think there was like a large fire that broke out, but there might as well have been. You couldn't see anything. It was just thick smoke, acrid air everywhere, you know, the stench of death. The line of monuments to your right and left indicate the position of the Union defenders, while Confederates assaulted up the wooded slopes to your front. After 7 hours of combat, the Union line held firm. The fighting here foreshadowed a new kind of war. On the battlefields of 1864 and 1865, shovels and trenches proved to be as important as bullets and bayonets. How about that? How about them apples? So, the last point I want to make, guys, and I've got, I don't know, 3-4 minutes to do it, is you know, the Revolutionary War gets a lot of credit with a lot of historians and scholars as far as being one of the first major wars in the world where guerrilla fighting was central to the war. I kind of disagree with that, and I'm not sure if I kind of worded the mantra quite right. But while it certainly kind of introduced some elements of guerrilla fighting, and there was some of that going on, I think the Civil War really kind of solidified that, let's just say. I mean, I think that's fair. Culp's Hill is one great example of this. As we know, George S. Greene was not ordered not to build the breastworks, but his superiors were kind of against it. They ultimately left it up to him, and obviously he made the right call. But it was still guerrilla fighting on both ends, you know what I mean? The Napoleonic, you know, line them up type of fighting, of course, just wouldn't work here. And out of necessity, they had, you know, everybody had to improvise. Kind of leads me to a what if regarding Pickett's charge, and I hate to say it because I always say, you know, I'll attack with the what ifs, you know, they're not much, you know, they're just fodder for the bar and for the coffee houses and stuff. But Lee was always the most successful when he was fighting guerrilla style, when he was fighting asymmetrically, when he surprised the Union, or when he outsmarted, you know, his opponents, when he outfoxed them. And that was really often the key to his successes. That and maintaining momentum and being aggressive when the momentum was going his way, as I've already mentioned in a lot of videos by now. When Lee was not successful, let's take the example of Pickett's charge, was when he tried to fight fair, fight toe-to-toe with the Union, not smart, and fight Napoleonic tactics, like they did in Pickett's charge. Now, I don't want to open up that can of worms, and I'm just gonna back away now from Pickett's charge. But my point is, like I said, he was at his best, and he was in his element when his back was to the wall, when he had to improvise, when he fought asymmetrically, and when he refused to fight that the Union wanted to fight. And again, those are the rules of the road, but they were really kind of shaped and honed, I think, during this war. I think it's very safe to say. And with that, like I said, you know, after the Civil War, Napoleonic fighting, to my knowledge, really was not part of any other major war from that point on. And so in this regard, you know, Culp's Hill is kind of a significant example of that. And getting back to Pickett's charge, that is the inverse, or the example of how not to fight a war or a battle anymore. And when maybe you should just start to back off and then try to lure him into a trap, which perhaps he was trying to do, you know, in the few days after the Confederates began their retreat. Anyways, guys, I am up to my limit. Hope you enjoyed this little talk on Culp's Hill and this rare, but I think pretty cool late fall wintertime view of this this area, because most people don't get to see it. Anyhow guys, till the next one.